It's the Infectious Groove Podcast, part of the Odd Pods Media Network. Recorded from Detroit, Michigan, and Jacksonville, Florida. The Infectious Groove Podcast is your source for jammy jams, album reviews, and the best in-depth music discussion. Thanks for joining us. Now here are your hosts.
In the words of Obi-Wan Kenobi, hello there. So we are the Infectious Groove Podcast. My name is Russ, and along with me is as far as I'm aware, COVID-less Kyle.
Yes.
That should just be your name from now on then, right? COVID-less Kyle?
As long as it stays the hell away from me.
Yeah, which you just went through number 2, yeah?
Yeah.
So hopefully you will, going forward, will be COVID-less Kyle. And Kyle is here with me on season 6, episode 20 of the Infectious Groove Podcast, which brings us to our season finale. So we have went quite a bit longer in season 6 than we did in season 5, because this time I didn't up and move my entire life 1,000 miles away from my co-hosts. I've been firmly in one spot this time. But Kyle and I are not alone. We have with us this week a gentleman who is not only from a fellow podcast, he is also his podcast is also on the Odd Pods Media Network. And this gentleman is from a show that is from a long and illustrious line of shows that had us on, and we promised that we would have them on ASAP. And that would be, if let me do some quick math here, at least 1.5 years or 2 years ago that I made that promise. And we finally got around to it. Dylan from the middle. What's going on, brother?
Man, I'm so excited to be here, and I'm glad all my email threats finally got through, and you can have me on. This is great.
Yeah, It turns
for the finale.
Yeah, I know. Well, see, that's the thing. We wanted to make it special, right? Yeah. And it turns out that the verbiage you had used in your emails was getting flagged. And so I wasn't seeing them. And so when you went super sarcastic and said, please, pretty please with sugar, that email made it through the filters. And that's when I saw it.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I broke Grammarly typing up those emails. they were not having it. So right. I just ignored all of those suggestions and powered straight through.
Yes. Well, having said that, I will tell you this, even though we completely joked about the demeanor of Dylan and his program, they couldn't be more the opposite. These are 3 nice guys who do quite a nice podcast. And I have found that when we have guests on over the past month and a half or so, I end up trying to sell people's podcasts more than they do. So I'm going to hush up right now and let Dylan take it away, tell you a little bit about himself and From the Middle.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, thanks again for having us on. So From the Middle, or at From the Mid Pod, you can find it anywhere that you find podcasts and YouTube. We have the benefit of, I have the benefit of using your show as a way to describe our show, which
right.
I don't normally have that benefit. And I'd like to think that for anyone that tunes in regularly to your show, and even if they don't, you are to music this like sort of positive, enthusiastic discussion that doesn't get too dark and heavy or too clickbaity around the music world. Right. And that's exactly what we do from like a comedy, culture, entertainment, style show. So you could kind of think of it like a blend of what you do, but with the broader entertainment world, or kind of like Seinfeld in the Midwest. It's a show about nothing. We're just 3 idiots who like to laugh and want to make people laugh and have a good time.
But
so
the draw,
that's our show. We're all based in and around Columbus, Ohio. So.
Right on. So middle of the country, middle of your lives.
Yeah. Our longer slogan is we're 3 middle-class guys living in the middle of America and the middle chapters of our lives with the point of view that's somewhere in the middle. We're not political at all. That's not the theme of the show. We don't want to be clickbaity and the loudest, obnoxious voices that are hating on things or totally loving on things. We just try to have reasonable, fun discussions where we can hang out and laugh.
Which is great. And I will tell you, and again, this is me overselling a guest's show for them, but I feel like the biggest compliment that we've got on this show, Kyle, like between you and I and Michelle, is when people say, oh, I was talking back to the radio so much because it really felt like I was in the room with 3 of my friends talking about music, right? And that's how I feel about From the Middle. Any episode I've ever put on, ever, instantly, whether I'm in the car with somebody else or not, makes me feel like I'm sitting in the room, just chit-chatting with you guys. And to your point, it's a conversation I want to be having. because there is enough clickbait and enough this is overrated. That's, oh dear Lord, I can't believe they did this to my favorite intellectual property. Or, if you have this belief or whatever, we can't be friends. Like it's a conversation I would like to be having with three people I would like to be having a conversation with. So that's the biggest compliment I can pay y'all.
Well, thank you, man. Yeah, there's plenty of loud, obnoxious voices out there. It's way more fun to have some real discussions. And so anyone who's willing to sit in and listen and check out the show, we appreciate it. And coming from you, that's a really high mark. So I can go to bed and sleep well tonight with that compliment. That's great.
Right on. Speaking of loud and obnoxious voices, Michelle was on the program last week. And when Michelle is on the program, we always have more than a bit of feedback to read that's usually entertaining. So let's get into it.
Feedback, John. Don't worry about that. Right. There's rock and roll me without feedback.
The listeners won't hear this, but I definitely didn't hit the wrong button 3 times in a row before I got the right one just now with feedback. Our friends, Sean and Chris, write in and say, Michelle, if you'd really like to get back at Russ, make him listen to Korn's version of Another Brick in the Wall, part 1, 2, and 3. You just might break him. Kyle, have you heard Korn's version of Another Brick in the Wall, part 1, 2, and 3?
Yeah.
It's not the worst thing that's ever happened, but it's Korn doing Pink Floyd. That's what it is.
Yeah. It is what you would expect it to be.
Have you ever heard that, Dylan? Korn doing Pink Floyd?
No, but I feel like in that when you're trying to do something like that, you either have to totally make it your own or try to do it so perfectly like the original artist.
Yeah.
From your point of view, which route did they take, and did they do that well?
This makes me such an elitist, and it goes perfectly with the second half of the show. But my thing is, I think Pink Floyd is such a unique thing that there is no way to cover it, because the only way to do it right is to sound exactly like the original. And then if you're going to sound exactly like the original, I'm just going to listen to the original. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you could... the same argument could have been made about Steve Perry and Arnel Pineda, and I don't mind listening to him at all. Like, I can go listen to the original, but he's so close.
That's fair. Oh, by the way, shameless plug. We interviewed Arnel Pineda on the show once, and he was a total sweetheart.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But I would say, but with that, though, we can't have the original anymore. Steve Perry can't tour anymore. So, like, if the alternative is either no Journey touring or Journey touring with a guy who sounds just like Steve, cool. But like with Floyd, is somebody covering it, that to me is a little bit different ballgame. You know what I mean? I will say this though, and I don't know, you guys might not be aware of this. So people really tend to forget this happened back in, I think it actually came out in 2000, but it was, the band was called Class of 99. There was like a super group of sorts who only ever put out one single, and Lane Staley, the lead singer of Alice in Chains, did vocals on it, and it was for the movie The Faculty. They did a version of Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 that's like a hard rock version of it, and it's pretty decent. Well, it's Lane Staley singing too, though. So, like Lane Staley's always going to sound good. So back a couple of weeks ago, we did one of our totally epic cover battles, and it was Michael Jackson versus Alien Ant Farm for the battle over Smooth Criminal. And EMZ on Twitter says, unsurprisingly, as a Michael Jackson fan, I loved this week's episode of Infectious Groove. It was balanced, and honestly, I love the Alien Ant Farm cover and the way they pay homage to MJ in the video. I'd love to know which version Michelle and Kyle would pick. Now, I told EMZ I would get an answer on this, and I forgot to ask Michelle. So, Kyle, your opinion is going to count for both of you. Off the top of your head, which way?
Michael Jackson all day long.
Yeah. Okay. Dylan, you know what? You can speak for Michelle this time out. What for
Ant Farm.
Yeah, that was a stunning Michelle impersonation.
I just throwing it out there. Just a little my acting chops thrown out there.
Yeah. Also, Dylan does voice work. If you'd like, you can do. Regarding our episode last week on the discussion of Pink Floyd The Wall, the Queer Defense Squad says, I love Michelle and Russ versus the Russ versus Michelle content that we got here. I think to be fair, Michelle should pick Coheed and Cambria in Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3 to see if we can pick up that story. I've listened to many Coheed albums and have no clue what the overarching story is. Also, I love the image of Russ guiding Michelle through an album. I just imagine him making the helicopter sounds and spreading her face with water to make it 4D. Please make a YouTube video of this. So I replied to them on Twitter and I said a couple of things. Number one, no, I will not be partaking in a explanation of a Coheed album. I would like to just throw that out there. And two, and Kyle, you may not have heard this, but during the course of the episode, Lauren actually told Michelle, because Michelle was talking about how the story of the wall is like hard to, which I understand is hard to grasp, and every song in the album is essential to the story. And I didn't know this. Lauren mentioned on the show that there is a Wikipedia page for every song on the wall that explains like what it means in the story and like why. And Michelle was like, oh, somebody should have told me that because I would have read it. And Kyle, would Michelle have read that Wikipedia page if she knew about it?
100% not.
Right. So
I was just going to say maybe the Imagineers could work with the Muppets in 3D ride and come up with something for everybody. I'd go watch.
Something that keeps Michelle entertained at the very least.
I'd sit there. Yeah, why not?
But what I did though, Kyle, and this is just from the goodness of my heart, I offered to come over and explain the album to Michelle song by song. And for whatever reason, she didn't take me up on it, that's unfortunate.
That's strange. I was expecting that she would have.
Yeah, for sure. You would think. Our friends at the Ever Trending Story podcast write in and they say, this episode has Russ at his best and Michelle at her most Michelle-iest. Lauren was a great. It's a verb now, or it's an adjective now. Lauren was a great guest, and this was a great fun episode for people to check out. Rounding things out, our friend Detention brings up a valid point, but I have a rebuttal for it. Says, hi, I have a question. How are we supposed to come for Michelle being terrible in this episode when you were talking about an album where the person singing is being terrible to women? And I agree with that. There are some very misogynistic and wrong views on the album The Wall. However, within the course of the album, there's a lesson learned that this guy did a whole lot of people wrong, including the women in his life. And Michelle said during the episode that for her, the album should have ended at the song Run Like Hell, which is unfortunate because the rest of the record is where the character learns the lessons. So if Michelle had it her way, like you just end on the possibly the most sour note possible. So, but having said that, that was some great feedback. And even though we're going to be off for a couple of weeks, by all means, get at us on social media. Speaking of us being off for a couple of weeks, we on our YouTube channel now have 3 videos every single week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. They're all between 5 and 10 minutes long, completely different content than what's here on the podcast. So we will still have those during the 2 weeks that we're off. So you won't have a podcast next week or the week after that. But until the podcast returns, we will have plenty of new YouTube content for you available. So if you're not subscribed, go over to YouTube and hit us up at Infectious Groove Music on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to make sure that you catch those 3 episodes that come out every single week. And we will make sure to keep all of that going for you, even when the podcast returns. Moving right along. Our jammies. Hey, I hit the right button this time. So, going into our jammy jams, and I've learned a lesson in the past couple of weeks that I have to go first, or else I may forget that I'm going to do my jammy jams. My jammy jams this week are all squarely in the early to mid 80s, and it's just 3 songs that I can't get out of my head, and I'm pretty sure anybody listening to this show is also not going to be able to get them out of their head. Number 1 is Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel. I'm not even a huge Peter Gabriel fan. Like, I like a little bit of what he did in Genesis. I like a little bit of his solo stuff here and there, but man, Sledgehammer just does it for me. Like, I've loved that song ever since I was a little kid. And for some reason, the part that I get stuck in my head more often than not is near the very end of the song, where it changes to completely different than the rest of the song, where I have to break a bunch of eggs to make this omelet. But when it goes over to like, I kicked the habit and the callbacks, this is the new stuff. Like, I get that in my head, and then I have to like go and listen to the song immediately. So Peter Gabriel, Sledgehammer, and the next 2 are ones that have made more than a few appearances in my jammy jams. But Your Love by The Outfield. I was listening to American Top 40 the other day, heard the song like 3 times in one day because of just different countdowns playing all throughout the day. And it always makes me think of the time you and I went and got to see the lead singer of The Outfield, Kyle, when the guy had the nerve to play for like an hour and a half before playing the only song that everybody came there to hear. But that's just a song that the moment it starts, it rules. That, and then the other one is we go to karaoke every Friday night, and I keep getting more and more bold with my vocal range, trying to work it back to what it used to be. And I recently, for the very first time in my entire life, attempted to sing "Don't Stop Believin'" by Journey. And I would say I got about 90% of it, which is a pretty good ratio. But because of that, I've had that song stuck in my head quite a bit. I feel like it's stuck in my head because it's reminding me of the notes that I kept missing, the 2 or 3 big ones that I missed. But anyways, like I say, squarely trenched between like 82 and 85 for my Jammy Jams this week. On to our guest, Dylan. What are your Jammy Jams? What have you been listening to?
Oh, I'm not here with these fellas. I got a pigging competition at the Livestock Pavilion, and I'm going to win that blue ribbon.
Have you been listening to the Oneaters?
Oh, one of my favorite bands. That I have to ask this question. I know this is a segment. I'm going to break it up for a second. Have you ever done an episode that's like the music from the movies that made us?
Ish. We've covered movies, like we did an episode on That Thing You Do. We did one on Empire Records, but I don't think we haven't done. I think we did a couple of episodes about good soundtracks and whatnot, but yeah, we need to do more along those lines.
I got to go find those. Yeah, I had to throw that in there. I'm sorry. Jammy Jams. Speaking of stuck in my head, Teddy Swims right now. Like, I cannot get the dude's music out of my head. And it's just so, there's nothing wrong with generic top 40 station or pop station that you can whatever let play in the background. But it's when you hit that song that just, you're like, whoa, what's this? And you turn it up, and that's Teddy Swims' voice for me.
Right on.
It's just got this texture to it that like I can't get over. And I'm sure there's plenty of editing on the back end, but he's all over YouTube with all kinds of covers and stuff.
Yeah, he's rad.
I love some of the slow stuff that he covers, like You're Still the One and 1,000 Miles. Some of the originals, All That Really Matters, Broke, Bet on Fire, which all of those feel totally different in and of themselves. Like, none of his stuff is exactly the same. And man, that dude's voice, it's just so much fun to sing along to.
That's right.
Teddy Swims right now is up there. Also, new to me, not new, the song Waikiki by Deep Chills. So one habit that I have, I'm one of those old farts that can still use like Pandora radio for just a station to play in the background.
Right.
You can go to any player and just search Tropical House. And it's, for me, that's like a great, I need music to work, but I need music without voices.
Right.
It'll break my focus. And that's one of my favorite, like, Tropical House radio type songs that'll come on. I can't help but like dance at my desk too. Pretty much anything by Teddy Swims, but a couple of the originals, and then Waikiki by Deep Chills. Love those.
Right on. When you talk about like there being nothing wrong with top 40 radio, but then coming across something that you're like, oh yeah, this is my thing. And I think, Kyle, we talked about this at least to a certain extent on the show. John Batiste was that way for me last year. Like when I came into John Batiste, I was like, whoa. At the risk of sounding elitist, like when things like that happen, you're like, how did this make it to popular radio? Like how is it that a bunch of people are listening to this? That's weird.
It's not elitist because you're not mad about it. You're just surprised.
Right. Yeah.
It's just genuine surprise.
Yeah. Pleasantly surprised. Kyle, round us out here. What have your Jammy Jams been?
A whole lot of Kanye, which is not unusual.
This is my shocked face.
Well, I took it all the way back to 808s and Heartbreak, and I've been listening to that like on repeat. And I like every single one of his albums is so different that like taking it all the way back to there is like, I think that's when I really, really started to like what he was doing. And it was new sounding, and like he just fucking kills it whenever he does something. And and it's different every time. It sounds different kind of music, different style, like
yeah,
just different.
A lot of his stuff sounds the same, but a couple weeks ago I got on an Eminem kick and was like, not that I don't know and love all those songs from the first 3 Eminem albums, but like I was just blown away by the genius that are on those records. So I know what you're saying about like, Kanye being a little different with all the music sounding different, but you know what I'm saying, where you're just like, yeah. What else you got besides Kanye?
So I happened upon, it's a brother and sister duo. Since we can't pronounce names on this podcast anyways, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to try not to butcher this, but it's maybe like Durry, Durry. Okay.
Well, that's probably right.
If it is, it is. If it's not, well, maybe somebody can correct me. I don't know.
If it's not Durry, sorry. That's for our Canadian listeners.
There's a song called Who's Laughing Now? I think I found it on like an Instagram reel or something. And it actually came, I think they formed in 2020. So they're a relatively new band. That song came out in 2021, and they don't have an album. It's just a bunch of singles that are on Spotify.
Right on.
But it's like pop rock kind of. But like as soon as I heard that song or seen the reel thing that was playing, I immediately went to Spotify and looked up all the other shit that they had, or to see if they had any more stuff. I got hooked on it really easily.
And all their stuff sounds similar, like it's not different genres and whatnot, or is it?
No, it's very much like pop rocky.
Right on. Is it the Duries?
No, it's just Dury.
Just
Durry.
Durry. That and Kanye. Have you been listening to anything else, or have those two been taking up your time?
Pretty much just that, yeah.
Right on. Cool. All right. Well, those were our jammy jams and a little bit of feedback and so on and so forth. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's going to be the three of us talking through a discussion that I thought was out of date, but has since reared its ugly head again. We're going to talk about musical gatekeeping and the do's and don'ts and the definitions and so on and so forth. You're listening to the Infectious Group Podcast on the Odd Pods Media Network.
Hey, I'm Pantsless Aaron.
This is Stevie.
And I'm Augie.
And we are BFYTW, a podcast all about playing games and having fun. Our games are usually based on British panel shows and game shows, but we'll play anything that captures our attention and imagination. Why? It's right there in the title.
You'll never guess what the F stands for.
Hey, it's Dalton.
And Sam.
We want to tell you about our podcast called Big 10 Plus 4.
Are you a college football fan who doesn't want to always be talking about the SEC?
Are you a college basketball fan who's tired of hearing how the Big 10 doesn't win in the big dance?
Then we're the show for you. Check us out each week on the Odd Pods Media Network. We bring you college sports with a Big 10 flavor.
Big 10 Plus 4. College sports with Midwest perspective. Blue collar and blue blood.
We are back. It's Russ and Kyle from the Infectious Group Podcast. And along with us this week is Dylan from the Middle podcast, which, by the way, is a joy to use on social media. Whenever you have a new episode, I'm always like, there's a new episode from... Nope, can't say from the middle, because then you sound dumb. So a new episode hath bestowed upon us, forthcoming, therefore, from the middle. Like every single Wednesday when you guys have a new episode, I always have a hard time figuring out exactly what I'm going to say to promote your show.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's not something we considered when we started the show, but we sure as heck ain't changing it now.
Yeah. No kidding. So Dylan is here to help us out with our season finale. And do not fret, because we have a bunch of YouTube content coming your way in between the weeks that we don't have the podcast. And the podcast itself will return in 2 Mondays from now. And Michelle will be on our season premiere. It's going to be a totally epic cover battle. And if you think you've heard Michelle at her most Michelle-iest, just wait till we get into this next epic cover battle. So having said that, the discussion at hand is going to be musical gatekeeping. Now, musical gatekeeping was a huge thing when I was a kid, and we'll get into the hows and whys of why it was such a big deal back in, the 60s, 70s, and even into the 90s. But I feel like it went away to a certain extent, but has reared its ugly head again very recently, if nothing else, just because of the show Stranger Things. We seem to have had like 2 big, huge back-to-back issues through that show, and we'll get into that later. So what I want to do is, in the first place, lay some ground rules for what each of us think of when we think of the term musical gatekeeping. So we'll start with our guest, Dylan. When you think of that, like even when I first said to you, hey, the topic for this one's going to be musical gatekeeping, what was the first thing that popped into your head?
Transparently, visually, it was immediately this castle keep type thing where it's like literally keep away, like
right.
Stay out. This is our little community.
Yeah.
That was sort of the visual representation. But then, of course, like, I feel like I need to boil it down for purposes of discussion, right?
Sure.
So I had this sense of like anyone inside a fan community trying to control the larger global community and experience that's like outside of its little bubble.
Right.
Some elements of it are like being ahead of trends, like the cool factor, or being in the know. There's also there's like elements of it that are like, I'm not like the other guys, or I'm not like the other girls.
Yeah.
There's some of that too in it. Like, so it feels like all these themes like swirling around the same toilet bowl that's just not worth keeping. But when you asked, frankly, those were some of the things that I just like jumped to right away.
And it's funny that you mentioned that too, the visual for it of like, you know, being in your little castle, your little community, and nobody else is allowed in, you know, like, and it's a double-edged sword because a lot of people who love a certain band or genre or whatever else, like want to feel more included. But then when more people come into the yard, they're like, get off my lawn. You know, so it's like, you know, which way do you want it? You know, Kyle, how do you feel about this? Like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of that? Like, just the term musical gatekeeping.
Well, so when you mentioned that, I immediately just thought about the latter half of the term, which is gatekeeping, which I deal with constantly with things like shoes and when new releases come out and like how they purposely make them scarce so that only a certain amount of people can get a hold of them. Therefore, these people are special and have them, and you know, if you want them, you have to pay an exorbitant amount of money to get a hold of them, that kind of thing. And I'm like, well, I deal with this shit all the time. It's like, and like everyday life, like it happens a lot in the fashion industry, like you know, with purses and shit that you can't get unless you're invited to buy them, and like things like that.
I would argue it happens a great deal across technology too.
Yes,
know, like,
also specifically with Apple technology.
I mean, not that you're wrong, but like, for example, and I'm not saying this to be funny, like I literally saw on social media recently that Dylan got a PS5, which I'm going to give out his home address so somebody can go steal it if they need one. But like a PS5, like, welcome to the club, Dylan, like Godspeed, and, you know, like, holy cow, you got one. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the last 10 Nintendo systems or whatever. Like, it just, you know what I mean? Like, even in tech, it's like, you got to be the chosen few to get it. And I would argue, Kyle, even being a vinyl enthusiast as you've become, you know, you ever go look for a pressing of a record and you're like, wait, hold on a minute. Why did only 500 people get this?
I was going to mention that too, is that's how I felt the vinyl community was before I got into it. I felt that like when I walked into a record store, they would immediately know that I had no idea what I was doing there. And they would be like, oh, this fucking guy, like, what, like, go away. We don't want you here.
You see that quite a bit on vinyl to this day on online presence for vinyl, like Facebook groups or forums and whatnot. You go in there and ask a question that somebody deems to be dumb, and oh man, the whole world will come down on your head. Which, well, I would argue, though, have I not shown you that there's like a whole other side to that community that like wants people to be included?
Yeah, and when we watched that, we did the episode on that documentary too, and that's what made me realize, like, oh, this is like it's scary if you don't understand, like, that there are actually normal people that are involved in this, and like they want you to be a part of it, and they want you to listen to vinyl because vinyl's amazing.
Yeah, and I feel like, and we'll get into this more, I feel like it's that way with all fan bases too. Like, there's gonna be that elitist guy or group of guys or girls or whomever who are going to hold something so close to their heart that they don't want anybody else to be involved in it. But there's also a cross section, I feel, of every fan base who is like, no, hey, come in, enjoy this with me. I want more people to like this. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, and so now that we're talking about this, it's apparent that this is like gatekeeping is involved in everything that we do, like, on a daily basis. If you're anything where you're a part of a group for something, there's people that are trying to gatekeep things. And it's like, so like, as you know, I have multiple reptiles. It works the same way in that industry too. Like, if you want to learn how to like build enclosures or like want to learn about stuff, there's these assholes in these groups that are like, oh, well, you know, maybe you should have done your research first before you came here and asked questions. Like, even though the whole point of the group is to ask questions. Yeah. So it's like, it's with everything. Like I said, music, fashion, technology, like everything has the holier than thou assholes that try to keep everybody out.
Yeah. And the reason why, again, and we'll continue to touch on this throughout the discussion, I think the reason why this came up now, I mean, we've been doing this show for, I don't know, coming up on 3 years. And this topic has never even crossed my mind for us to approach on the show, because I hadn't seen any images of this that I could really think of in the musical community in a long time. But then you have Stranger Things comes about, and there was this huge mess created by them using Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush, and then by using Master Puppets by Metallica, where first of all, I've never liked that Kate Bush song. I don't like it now. Because, you know, like, I didn't like it when I was a kid and I didn't like it now. But like, if people are enjoying a song that's that old and who had no idea who Kate Bush is, I don't understand the problem with that. And the same thing with Metallica. Like, it's foreign to me to all of a sudden come down on a whole fan base because they found Metallica through Stranger Things. Who cares where the horse found the water? You know what I mean? Like, that's how I feel about it. So, you know, like, to your point, Kyle, yes, this happens in every industry, but I feel, I mean, well, actually, and we'll get into this more. Do either of you feel like maybe I'm wrong? Like maybe it was happening the whole time and I just didn't notice it? Or do you feel like I'm right in assuming that this has just now come back around?
Well, here's an example. I don't know how much gatekeeping was happening because it was obvious at the time what was going on. When the TV show Glee was at its peak, obviously the whole premise of the show, these kids in show choir, they're covering classic songs.
Right.
So every week on the real iTunes chart, you had basically the Glee cover, and then people would go find the original song, and you would see those two songs in like the top 50 every week, whatever songs were the most popular of the show that week. So I don't know that it was gatekeeping in the sense that like everyone knew they were covers, and so everyone was discovering new music from the covers and then to the originals. But I'm sure there were people saying, oh, hey, I just downloaded this song speaking about the original that they had just discovered by the cover of Glee. I'm sure that was happening. And then somebody's going, oh, well, that song was out, 30 years ago. But like,
yeah,
that was the whole point of Glee, though. It was a cover show. And so I feel like it probably was happening a little bit as people were finding the covers, then finding the originals, and then discussing what they were finding.
Right.
But that was the only example because I read your blog post on oddpodsmedia.com. I thought that was spot on. And I was like, that's the only other thing I can think of that like some conversation around the music of that show.
Yeah. Now, the only conversation I remember, and I this could be seen as a level of elitism, I guess, is I remember now that Glee would have been on, and it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but it was on long enough ago. And Kyle, we've discussed this on the show many times, how much more acceptable it's become to have your music in commercial and to be used in a commercial setting now than it was even 10 years ago. Right. Yeah. And I remember at the time, like your Aerosmith fans being like, I can't believe they let them use Dream On Glee, brr, but I feel like that's a larger discussion because at the time it was far less acceptable to do that, where now that's how new music is discovered and old music is rediscovered, is through commercial means now. But I totally know what you mean, though. I guarantee you there was a niece or a nephew somewhere who said, oh, I love Dream On, and the uncle that said, that album came out in 1970.
Because at the time I had a coworker that was all classic rock fan all the time. So he was kind of annoyed by Glee to a degree. And so I remember specifically jabbing at him as he would play, just for fun, as he would play whatever original versions of songs that Glee had used and saying, oh, isn't that the song from Glee? Just to have fun with him a little bit, because why not? And he did that often. And then I'm like, well, it's not like they can just go steal this music. Somebody had to approve it to say that it was okay to put on the show. So like, I get that you don't like it, but like, somebody rubber stamped it.
And I'll tell you what, with all of these, and again, Kyle, we've discussed this so many times in the past year, at least, with all of these music rights being sold and whatnot, your Dylan, your Springsteen, Fleetwood Mac, you name it. If you think we've heard popular songs being used now, oh boy, just wait till these corporations start, like you said, Dylan, start stamping everything. Like, oh yeah, yep, the answer's blowing in the wind. We got a new leaf blower. We're going to use the Bob Dylan song for it, like, for sure.
I also just realized that I sometimes am that fucking old uncle, because my son, who's 9, will be like, we'll hear a song. He's like, oh, that's that TikTok song. And I'm like, no, that's not a TikTok song. That song was out years ago before you were even born. I don't want to hear about it being a TikTok song. It's not a TikTok song.
Well, now hold on. Don't throw yourself under the bus just yet. We're going to get to examples of when we've done it to other people. But yes, that it's so easy to do that one.
it happens like weekly with him, and it's something that he finds on TikTok, and I'm like, no, man, like that's not a TikTok song, but okay.
Yeah. Have you, before we get to when you've done it to other people, because I feel like no matter what, you have done some form of musical gatekeeping in your life, as high of a road as this show tries to take. I believe that everybody involved in music has at some point done this to someone else. Have you ever had it happen to you? Have you had someone come at you? And we'll start with Kyle on this one, like come at you and be like, whether it's a sample even, in something, oh, you didn't know that, was this, or, oh, you didn't know that, person did that song first or whatever, or anything along those lines. Have you ever had someone come at you about musical gatekeeping?
I'm sure I've run into older guys that I used to work with or something that I would mention something, and it would be a cover, and they would have to go on and on about how, the original's better and yada, yada, yada. I bet you didn't even know this was a cover, that kind of thing. Yeah. So yeah, I've run into it in various, situations.
See, nowadays you could be like, wow, you should listen to my show where we voted the cover was better than the original. Your head's going to explode.
The Star Wars sequels are totally better than the original. Yeah.
Now you have to differentiate if you're talking about the prequels or the sequels, because they were all made after.
Yeah, they're all better than the originals. It's fine.
I already know what feedback we're going to be reading in 2 weeks.
No one's ever going to listen to our show now.
Yeah, I know. This will be the first time people are like, okay, I need to make sure to never subscribe.
In fact, people are going to be submitting to Apple like copyright reports and all kinds of stuff to get our podcast shut down.
Yeah, no kidding. So has it ever happened to you? For me, see, Grandpa comes from a different time. So I was, 10 in the mid 80s, and I came from a time where it was like not only accepted, but everywhere. It was like you couldn't pick up a Rush CD or a Kiss CD or Yes or, Led Zeppelin in the 80s without some older relative coming along to tell you about how you had no right to listen to that because that was their music when they were young and you can't, this isn't for you and whatever. And I feel like it was like running rampant back then. Like anything you picked up that wasn't from your current generation, somebody was there to tell you that, it wasn't meant for you, or, that was their music or whatever. And for whatever reason, it was really, really harsh back then. So it used to happen to me all the time when I was a kid. And actually, the late 80s were really big for covers from the 60s. And it would seem like what you were saying, Kyle, like whether it's Billy Idol with Moni Moni or something along those lines, like, it seemed like you couldn't have a cover come out without everybody in the world being like, they didn't do that originally. You're like, I still like the Billy Idol version, though. It's totally okay for that to happen. Dylan, have you yourself been a victim of musical gatekeeping? And will you share with the class?
Sure. Yeah, the original trilogy was way better than the other ones. Anyways, so I might have a slightly different take than I don't remember a lot of it. My mom was a musician. I grew up with her, around her a lot, and she was traveling and doing a lot of different stuff with a lot of different musicians. And so because my mom was part of a group and people wanted to probably be nice to my mom, they were nice to me. So I didn't get much of that. But I do remember distinctly as a kid hearing certain things, covers of songs or stuff from a movie or show, and bringing up to my mom, have you ever heard this? And she'd just start singing the whole song. Like that was kind of her way of saying, of course I know the song.
Right. Yeah.
Like, here it is. But I got a lot more of it was my mom and probably people that she would sing or perform with going, oh, if you like this, you should go check out their other songs or this other album or this similar musician. I feel like I got a lot more of that. And so I was listening to stuff that was probably just a little bit different than some of the stuff that my age, but also stuff that was from my age,
Right.
Like I still listen to Weird Al and Will Smith and stuff that I enjoyed when I was younger, but also much older music because that's what they would recommend.
Right.
It was, Rat Pack and Nat King Cole and stuff that would have been much older than me. So yeah, very little of that. Fortunately, I wasn't scarred by that.
This actually, I kid you not, was kind of a scarring moment, and it didn't even recur to me to bring this up until you just mentioned the whole like going to someone and being like, "Hey, have you ever heard this?" And they're like, "Yeah, I've heard that." Is back when Fleetwood Mac put out the Tango in the Night LP, which by the way was released 10 years after Rumors, they had their hit single, Seven Wonders. And I went to my sister and asked her if she had heard this new band, Fleetwood Mac. And her answer was pretty scarring. I won't repeat it here, but it made me feel real dumb, and I never forgot it. And it is because of that. I feel like that was one of the reasons why I moved into like trying not to do that. Like I will do more what you talked about, Dylan. And again, Kyle, you can attest to this on the time that we've known each other. Oh, if you like this, you should check out this, instead of just, oh, well, you just now found that, or you know what I mean? So Kyle, has musical gatekeeping, has it ever happened to you, but did I ever do it?
No, you never did it in like a negative way. It would be like, I've learned so much shit about music from you, but it wasn't in like oh, you didn't know this. It's more like, hey, or you would say like, did you know? And
right.
if I didn't, then it wasn't like, oh, you dumb shit. Like, now you do.
Yeah. No, and that's, people do that too. Like I'm not out here. Like when I talk about music to you or whomever else, I'm more hoping like, how everybody you see, if you spot somebody else with the same sporting jersey that you have, you're like, you're hoping that you can have an in-depth conversation with them. Like when I spot somebody in a, like if you are Kyle, if you're listening to Eminem or whatever else, I'm like, oh, I'm going to talk to him about Eminem now. Like, and I'm hoping that we can have that good conversation, right? Like I'm not going to go, I'm not Cliff Clavin over here. I'm like, oh, maybe you go tell him about, like I'm not going to tell you about Eminem, like I'm hoping we can have a dialogue. So this next one is kind of the portion of the show where we all get to throw ourselves under the bus and talk about when we've done it to anyone else. And I will tell you, I have tried, because of the scarring my sister did to me regarding Fleetwood Mac, to not do it to others. But I do have one thing that for the longest time I was just a total jerk about, and I'll get to that in a minute. But Kyle, have you ever caught yourself doing it? Have you ever done that where I hate to pigeonhole you, but like, let's say with The Weeknd, you were into The Weeknd so far before other people. Like when The Weeknd blew up, was there even a little piece of you that was like, I knew about this way before everybody else?
Yeah, not so much anymore, because he's such a huge, like, if you don't know who The Weeknd is, then you probably live in a cave or something. I don't know. There's no way to not know who he is now.
Right.
But I do this shit, like I said, with the whole TikTok thing. Like it drives me nuts. I don't use TikTok. I don't have it downloaded. It's not on my phone, but my son brings it up constantly. Yeah. And I always, without even thinking about it, I correct him every time. Not in like a mean way. I'm just like, no, man, go listen to the original song. You'll see where it came from. It didn't come from TikTok.
When he gets a little bit older, you could be like, that band did a lot of drugs to bring you that song. That was not a TikTok creation. Would you just think about the drugs and the partying that went on to bring you that song just for a second? It was not just made for TikTok, young man.
I also will do it to Michelle sometimes, because she will say something that makes me think that she's just trolling me.
Yep.
And she's actually not. So I'm like, I might come off as an asshole, or, a gatekeeping asshole at first. And then I realize that she's actually serious and like wants to know the answer to what she's asking.
Okay.
And then I tune.
Here's my problem with Michelle wanting to know the answer, though, is that she doesn't want to know the answer. She just wants to know if you know it, and then she's never going to remember it.
Yeah.
Right? So like, okay, here's the thing. So Dylan, if you called me tomorrow and you go, hey man, off the top of your head, how many studio albums do the Stones have? Right? Like I would take that in earnest. Like you're just wondering, they've been around for a million years. Like how many records? And I'm not saying you're going to commit that to memory, but like you're going to, you're not calling me to test my knowledge. Michelle absolutely would ask me that question just to see if I know the answer, and then never, ever, she won't even remember that she asked the question.
Yes, accurate.
Yeah.
That's why she makes such a good co-host.
Yeah. Oh no, it makes for a wondrous banter on the show. That's for sure. Dylan, have you ever done that to anybody else besides the reverse trolling that you were doing with hey, do you like that song from Glee? Have you ever found yourself though in that situation where you go, and it's okay if you're a better person than Kyle and I, that's fine. But have you ever found yourself in that situation?
I hope not. And really, because it's way more likely, not that I've not done it because I'm a good person. far more likely because I'm way less cool and way behind the trends. Much more likely for that reason. And then all of a sudden the Christmas vacation quote pops in my head. That's pretty low, man. If I'd had a rubber hose, I'd beat myself with it. If I did it, I don't think so. I really can't remember. If I have, I can't remember doing it. But I do, not with music, I do remember doing it once with the line that unfortunately has slipped out of my mouth before is, yeah, I used to watch Family Guy before it was canceled.
Oh, man.
I've done that. I've pulled that one before. I've tried to bury that one and never use it. But
I watched Family Guy before it was canceled. I don't think I've ever said that to anybody, but I did. But I did watch it before.
Yeah,
it was
I mean,
canceled.
it's not even something to be proud of. So I don't know why I said it, but like, I think what annoyed me a little bit, and this is in the spirit of gatekeeping, it became so popular of a show when I was in college. People were gatekeeping it that it was like my way to attack. Like, if you haven't seen Family Guy, what are you? So it was like my way to go, oh yeah, I've seen Family Guy. I was watching it before it even got canceled and then came back.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it was like my way to get at the gatekeepers, maybe.
Nice.
I don't know. That's the only example. I was trying so hard.
Dylan's
It's the only
out
one
here.
I can think
Dylan's
of.
out here fighting the good fight, trying to take the gatekeepers down a notch.
Who cares? For a mega corporation who's making billions off of cartoons.
Exactly. So I will tell you, here's the one thing that I used to be really bad about. And I've actively restrained myself from this activity over the years. And Dylan referenced it earlier. I told this story in a blog post that I did on oddpodsmedia.com, but I very recently had something happen to me that was like, hey, see, if you're not a jerk, good things can happen. And the thing that was so hard for me to break, and it's a work in progress. Every day is a new day. I take the 12 steps every day regarding this. T-shirts at department stores and people walking around in, Def Leppard, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin shirts who don't even know that Pink Floyd is not a man, or that Led Zeppelin is no longer a band. I absolutely, beyond the shadow of a doubt, used to be the name 5 songs by guy when I saw someone walking around in a Def Leppard tour shirt from '83 that I know for sure that they got at Target. Like, I absolutely used to be that guy. I don't know why I did it to people, but I did. I know I'm not alone. Through the invention of the internet, I've learned that many other people also suffer from this affliction. But just recently, after literal years of being like, who gives a shit? Like, where, if they love, that band or not. Just recently, myself and Lauren were in a department store and she bought a Pink Floyd t-shirt. Like, she's not the world's most foremost authority on Pink Floyd, but she likes the band enough and she bought this shirt in a department store. And we went out to dinner like 2 nights later and she was wearing this Pink Floyd shirt. And the waitress came up and she was like, oh, Pink Floyd, my son just bought a t-shirt for them at Target the other day. And we were both like, oh, that's cool. And the waitress was like, yeah, we don't have any idea. We'd never even heard Pink Floyd. He just liked the t-shirt. And so we went home and she was like, as a parent, I looked up some of their stuff on YouTube before I was going to let him wear it. And we both ended up liking a lot of their music. And it literally was like a kick in the karma junk for like the 15 years that I was a jerk to people. Like that was like literally the world just being like, here's what could happen if you weren't an asshole to people about the t-shirts that they bought. You know what I mean?
What's funny is I can see that whole situation unfolding, and it's just like trigger. And then when she's like, oh yeah, we went and looked up their music and we like it. And you're like, okay. Forgiven.
Yeah. But like it could have went 100 ways. We could have got our food spit in,
Yeah.
It's so funny too that just now came up because people do it with sports teams all the time. They'll like buy a hat because it matches their favorite shoes or whatever. And then they'll start watching the team and then actually start to like the team. Also, I would be concerned with for anyone who does still do that, I would be concerned with how many trolls exist in the world, because I might be the person that can name 5 songs, but will intentionally come up with like, that was the band that sang in Back to the Future. They did that song from Back to the Future. Like, just to annoy the person that's trying to gatekeep.
We all know it was Marvin Berry who played in Back to the Future anyways.
Yeah, of course.
Chuck's cousin. But I'm sorry, Kyle, go on.
I do also relate to the whole t-shirt thing, because literally every band shirt that I've gotten from the damn concert I went to.
Right. Me too.
So it's like, I don't go out of my way to go and purchase band shirts from Urban Outfitters or Hot Topic or whatever the hell. But I understand that that's how some people find things.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing. And if nothing else, it's a walking billboard for the thing that you love. Like somebody else is walking around advertising Pink Floyd, or insert band here. So the last thing that I want to touch on is, what do you guys think about the current state of it? Like Kyle, admittedly, like with, I didn't even bring TikTok into it, but you're totally right. TikTok's probably as much or more responsible for this type of behavior coming out of people. And the Stranger Things is the thing that kicked it off for me. Even going back a couple of years, to your point, Kyle, with TikTok, that guy that got famous, I think he was skateboarding and Fleetwood Mac's Dreams was playing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then like Dreams became a huge deal. And then again, it ignited a whole generation of people, being like, back in my day before black color television, we had rumors and we knew real Fleetwood Mac. You know what I mean? Like, so that's all going on. So what do y'all think about it? Like, do you think this is going to keep going? Do you think this is going to, I kind of feel like eventually it'll die out with the fans of said acts, because no one's going to remember where any of this stuff came from eventually. Dylan, it looks like you want to jump in.
Man, I want to be hopeful and think that that's the case, but the internet has made so many people insufferable. Like, everyone needs to be a critic or an expert or have an opinion on something. Everyone's trying to monetize their thing, so it makes everyone like go hard one way or the other on every topic and fandom and genre, and it's hard to even just enjoy a thing for what it is, which is like the whole freaking premise of your show and our show.
Yeah.
So to just enjoy a thing, or at least reasonably constructively criticize something if you are going to talk about it, like a normal human being. So like, I don't know, if people can learn to like not go so hard in the paint on stuff and just like, yeah, it's fine. That's something you don't like. You can't have a conversation. When was the last time you heard a political discussion or some kind of comic book thing? People, DC, Marvel, Apple, Android, where one of the people just goes, yeah, I can see that.
Right.
Like,
yeah, it's not existent.
Nobody does that. So like, the internet, man.
Yeah. And I've said it on this show ad nauseum. I've told you personally about this, Dylan. Kyle and I have had this conversation. We, like, from a monetizing standpoint, this show does all right. We have a good loyal listener base, but we could get so much more going by the hot take, the most overrated this, or this is why your favorite song sucks, or whatever. And there's enough of that out there. And also people, and maybe this is news to everyone, but you have the ability to just not listen to the things that you don't like. So you can just turn that stuff off, instead of having to listen to it. So I agree. I feel like, Dylan, you're right in that it's more of a hope and a dream that we could all be moderate about things. But, and even, at my, as I'm known on the show, I'm an old, and it's taken me many years to get to where I am, to where I tell Kyle this all the time. He's getting the much kinder, gentler version of me. And Michelle can tell you many old tales of when I was not the kinder, gentler version of me. So where do you think, Kyle, what do you think about the current state? Now, I would argue, though, when you threw yourself under the bus earlier with the TikTok thing, I would argue, because I've seen you with your son, you're not like, idiot, if he doesn't know that that's not a TikTok song. Like, you're literally helping him, right? So
I kind of do. I kind of do it with wrestling too. Well, he'll bring up like some sort of new wrestler. I'm like, I have no idea who you're talking about, or he'll be watching some old match and not know who somebody is. And I'm like, dude, that like he used to wrestle when I was a little kid, like when I was your age. Same kind of thing happens. So yeah, I'm not an asshole to him about it. I'm just like, dude, like this song did not come from this app, and nor did it come from the person that you're listening to sing it.
Right.
It came from here. Like, you should go listen to this. If you like this, listen to this. That's basically like that.
So do you feel that more people are going to become like you are and like I'm trying to be? Or do you feel like we're going to continue with this? You can't listen to Master of Puppets because I bought it out of a guy's trunk in 1983, and that makes me a real fan, and I don't know what Stranger Things is.
Well, see, I don't think it will go away, because those type of people try to gatekeep everything that they do and are a part of. So it's not, so the people who gatekeep music gatekeep fashion and gatekeep this and gatekeep restaurants they like to go to, and I've been eating at that pizza joint for years. Where you been?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
How about you say that they should go eat at the pizza joint, so then that place stays in business, so you can continue to eat at the pizza joint? Like, it's like there's no point of like trying to be secretive and like hide things from one another. It's dumb.
I couldn't agree more. I feel
And the fact that Metallica had to step in and be like, hey, olds, like, we want everyone to listen to our music. So like, shut up and like leave people alone.
Yeah, and this goes across at least movies for sure, is my least favorite phrase in critiquing is, oh, it ruined my childhood or it ruined my memories. No, it did not. That's not how memory works. Like you still have a memory of, listening to however deep your connection is. And I want to be clear. None of us are setting to the side people's deep personal connections with this stuff. Like if you were an outsider in 83, 84, 85, and Metallica was the only thing you connected to, it doesn't mean that your memories are ruined or your childhood is ruined because more people are getting involved in this now. Like, why don't you spin it the other way around? Like you said, Kyle, like Metallica had to come to the defense of people that are just learning this music. It's like, why don't you spin that around and be like, wow, I hope that those songs help someone else in the way that they helped me.
Yeah, I truly believe that gatekeeping is a personality trait, and people who do it with everything that they touch. I don't think it will ever go away because of that.
That's probably true. That's that's unfortunate, but true. Dylan, try and bring us back up one more time. Let's end on a positive note.
Well, here's a question for you.
Yeah,
I have a quick example story. Is this gatekeeping in a positive way? So let's say somebody's over at music night or something, and they want to listen to an album that you know is terrible, and you just go, no, trust me, you don't want to listen to that. Is that just being helpful, or is that like gatekeeping? Like you don't even want to get into this band because like the first album is okay and then they only get worse after that. You're going to spend a lot of time trying to like, is there such a thing as positive gatekeeping where you're trying to help somebody avoid what you see as a bad decision?
Well, okay. So personally, I would never tell somebody to not listen to an artist entirely, with the obvious exception of Creed. Like no one should ever listen to Creed. But like if somebody, okay, so and let me take your direct music thing and spin it towards TV. You know how everybody on earth says, "Oh, I'm going to get into Dexter." Okay, but only watch the first 4 seasons because the last 3 seasons are terrible. You know what I mean? So like I feel like that's what you're asking. Like if let's take somebody like Ozzy, who's been around for a million years, right? Yeah, Ozzy has put out some very questionable albums. So yeah, I do feel like, let me put it this way. If somebody was to say to me, hey, I heard Flying High Again, and I really want to look into more Ozzy, I would direct them to the records that sound like that. And I would be like, hey, don't waste your time with this, that, or the other record because it's completely different than what you like about that song.
Yeah. So is that positive gatekeeping? Is that...
See, I feel like that's more protection. Than gatekeeping, like
the only downside of that is somebody's going to do the same thing with like, let me save you some time with those new Star Wars movies,
right? Which
because again, all of a sudden then you're back to gatekeeping.
Yeah,
like
from a music standpoint, the only band no one should ever listen to is Creed. Other than that, listen to whomever you want. And
I was gonna say I've watched you spin lots of records you didn't want to listen to at music night because other people wanted to listen to them.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and I've been turned on to tons of music that I never would have heard because people brought it and we're like, yeah, let's put this on. I'm like, okay, you never know. Sturgill Simpson, Sailor's Guide to Earth. I just yesterday had another podcast appearance come out where I talked that album to death with a guy from England who had never heard it before. We talked about that album for an hour and a half straight, and I never would have heard it if somebody wouldn't have brought it to music night. So yeah, I've done the reverse. That's for sure. Dylan.
Well, and if to end on a positive note, this was a ton of fun. I think this was a great topic for a finale. I'm feeling great. Although, to be fair, I had seafood burritos from a Mexican place in the middle of Ohio. So check back in 6 to 12 hours to see if I still feel great. But I had a ton of fun. And so thank you for having me on. This was awesome.
Listen, over on your show, it's not just you. You've got Corey and Kendall with you on your show. So before the world is void of the Infectious Groove podcast for 2 weeks, not all together, you can go to our YouTube channel and check out our videos over there. Why don't you tell everybody one more time what it is that y'all three do over on From the Middle and where you can be found?
Absolutely. You can search at From the Mid Pod, just like it sounds, everywhere. We're also on YouTube. We're a comedy, culture, entertainment, and interview style podcast. Our tagline, we're 3 middle-class guys living in the middle of America in the middle chapters of our lives with points of view somewhere in the middle. We're not political. We're much like this show. We just want to have a positive, fun, great conversation. And if we do need to rip on something a little bit, it's still constructive. But we're just three guys that love to laugh and hope that you'll laugh along with us and have a good time. And 98% of the time, your kids can laugh in the car with you too. So that's a nice bonus.
Yeah, I feel like that's accurate. 98. I feel like that's a solid percentage.
Every now and then, Corey or Kendall will go off on a tangent, but it's fine most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time it's okay.
Most of the time.
Having said that, we greatly appreciate you coming to sit in with us for this season finale, season 6. As I mentioned several times throughout the show, we are going to be off for a couple of weeks, but do not fret. We will be back in 2 weeks. We have plenty of YouTube content for you in the meantime. And when we come back in a couple of weeks, Michelle will be back on the program doing things that Michelle does and only the way that Michelle can do them. And so with that, we would like to say the same thing that we have said for almost 150 episodes now. Without music, life would be a mistake. Bye. Bye.
The Infectious Groove podcast is hosted by Russ Robinson, Kyle Wimple, and Michelle Koselecki. Produced and edited by Russ Robinson. Intro and outro music composed by Chris Kimmel. Recorded with a Rode Podcaster Pro and Rode Pod mics.